He was a 7-time NBA All-Star. He was the 1963 Coach of the Year. He played for the New York Knickerbockers. I think that's what they called them back then, not the Knicks.
When, yes, they did.
And the Detroit Pistons. Harry Gallatin. How you doing, Harry?
Oh, just fine.
So, are you watching the golf, or you're just resting right now?
Oh, I'm going to watch the golf. I was the golf coach for about 20 years after my basketball career.
Where were you the golf coach at?
SIU Edwardsville.
Oh, okay. How did your teams do down there?
Pretty good. We qualified for the NCAA Division II tournament for about 17 out of 20 years.
What happened those 3 years that you didn't? Bad coaching?
That's not a good question. I would like to defer.
Okay. Now, when did you take up golf? I assume that basketball was your primary sport.
Well, actually, I was the AD here at the University Edwardsville, which is about 14,000 students, and I initiated the program here, started basketball and 3 other sports, and it wasn't too long before I decided that maybe basketball wasn't for me anymore after all the years that I played, and the opportunity for golf came up, and it's always been a sport that I love, and so I kind of switched from a big ball to a small ball.
Now, tall guys usually have trouble golfing. How are you as a golfer?
Oh, not bad. I could break 80 most of the time. I can't now.
Okay, is that the front 9 or the back 9? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I hope so.
How did you get the nickname The Horse?
Well, I guess it was because, I wanted the ball a little bit more than most, and I played, the full time. There wasn't any time for me to relax because I loved to play all out.
Now, rebounding seems to have been your specialty, although you could put the ball in the hoop, too. But 33 rebounds in a game for the Knicks, still a record today. That's pretty impressive.
Well, a lot of that, I think, was luck. But rebounding is easy. You have to want the ball more than anyone else. And if it takes a little, elbowing to get there, it's whatever is necessary.
Now, what was it like going from a small town in Illinois, not too far from St. Louis, to the big city of New York?
Oh, that was something because it was my first airplane ride, and I was scared to death. And just imagine a guy from a town of about a couple thousand going to New York City, and with everything that goes on there, I was over my head for sure, but I found that basketball is basketball, and whether you play it here or you play it in New York City, it's still the same, and it wasn't too long before I found that I could deal with that.
Now, did you have a teammate or two who would take you around New York and show you some of the spots and things like that?
Well, yeah, I had a number of offers, especially from Al McGuire, who was a teammate of mine, and Al liked to get around quite a bit. And if you remember right, he was from Rockaway Beach. He and Dick, brothers, and I did pal around with them quite a bit.
Were the fans in New York as tough on you guys back then as they are now?
Yeah, I think so. They just expect, an all-out effort every time that you play, and they respect if you are giving it everything you have, and even though you may not win all the time, they just expect the effort.
What do you think about Dennis Rodman? There's a lot of controversy whether he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. They said all he did was rebound. He did nothing else. But you were a rebounder, but that's where you made your name also, but you could score a little.
Well, there's no question he had an awful lot of skill when it comes to rebounding, and I really respected that. The only thing that bothered me a little bit was his personal life, but there's no question about his ability, and he's going to be elected to the Hall of Fame, and I just hope that during his initiation speech that he sort of backs up a little bit from some of his personal issues.
What do you think about Sat Sanders? I mean, his stats, 14 points a game is the most he ever averaged, and he's going in. And I'm saying to myself, if Satch is going in, what's the controversy about Rodman?
Well, that's true, but that Sanders also made his contribution to basketball. He played with one of the best teams ever, the Celtics, of course, and I think that probably from a defensive standpoint, Stats was one of the best players that's ever played. He played alongside probably the best defensive center in the game of basketball, Bill Russell. So between those two, it was pretty difficult to get anything easy on the Celtics.
Now, your Knicks teams weren't championship caliber back in the day.
Well, we played for the championship a couple of times. We came within one basket, actually, that was controversial from winning the championship. So we were always right up there in the Eastern standings, and I thought that we were competitive all the time. We had a great team in a lot of respects.
And back in the day when they would show the NBA on television, it was usually the Knicks against somebody. I think they wanted to capture that New York television market. But you guys got a lot of exposure in the early days of the NBA on TV.
Well, that's never changed, and I always said and still say that going to New York and playing there was a great opportunity for me, and I think a lot of the publicity that went on in the big city helped me considerably in being elected to the Hall.
I saw a picture on the internet of you with about 5 of your teammates, like doing a pyramid and some players jumping over you. Do you remember that?
Yeah. We had a few hijinks now and then, and I think most teams do, and it keeps you loose, and I think probably respecting your teammates.
And then you went to Detroit when they started their franchise, and then they had you going all over trying to get people to realize that basketball belonged to Detroit.
Well, that wasn't new for me because when I coached for Ben Kerner here in St. Louis, I was out every summer selling tickets for Ben. So selling in Detroit was something that I was used to, and so it was a good experience for me.
Now, did the Pistons, who were on the team in Fort Wayne, did they have an easier or difficult time adjusting to being in the big city of Detroit?
Well, in some ways, a difficult time, but of course, when you have a player like George Yardley, who led the league in scoring in the year that I played with them in 1958, that was a great experience, and I'll always remember that, riding back and forth to the games with George, and having him have that kind of year. I always felt that I always told George, you can't score without the ball, and I've got to get it for you.
Yeah. Now, George was way ahead of his time. He was the first bald player that I can remember. Of course, he didn't have to shave his head.
No, but he also don't understand that George was a great competitor, and before every game he had to go to the bathroom so that he could vomit.
Jeez. You coached the St. Louis Hawks in around 63. I was looking at the St. Louis Hawks coaches. It seemed like they had a lot of player coaches. I mean, they had Slater Martin in the late 50s coach them, and then they had Bob Pettit like 62, and then you replaced Pettit. Was it hard replacing Pettit, having him still playing for you?
Oh, of course not. Bob Pettit is, in my mind, one of the 5 best players that's ever played the game of basketball. When you talk about effort, Bob Pettit is right there at the top. He not only shot the first one, but he went for the second, the third, and he gave it everything he had. And as far as I'm concerned, it's one of the most respected players in the league.
Now, if you had put Pettit in the New York market, can you imagine how big he would have been back in the day?
Yes. I think that he would probably rival some of the New York Yankees in a lot of ways. And, of course, as I said, people in New York respect people who give out an all-out effort, and that's what it takes.
So why did you replace Pettit? Did Pettit not want to coach anymore, or what happened back then?
No, I think that Bob was a little reluctant to coach. I think Ben just convinced him that might be a good thing for Bob to take over for a while until he could find someone else. And I was very lucky. I had a successful season, well, actually 4 seasons at SIU Carbondale. That's the big school, and we're the branch up here. So, it was something that a great opportunity for me. I hated to leave SIU Carbondale, Walt Frazier School, but it worked out great for me.
Yeah. Now, Carbondale is where kids go to party, and Edwardsville's where they go to study. Does that sound about accurate?
Have you been down in southern Illinois lately?
Not
it
late.
Sounds like you know what's happening down there.
We have sources.
But also, they have a great athletic program down there. They've done a great remodeling job on their arena. Have a new football stadium. So expect to see SIU Carbondale back in the headlines again, and I'm sure Walt Frazier would like that too.
Now, you were an undersized center. You had to go up against, Red Kerr, Red Rocha, people like that. Who was your toughest opponent?
George Mikan. George was tough when he got down there in the box. You either fronted him, you couldn't play in back of him. That was, you were going any place you played in back of George. So we tried to double team him as much as we possibly could, but once he got the ball, this guy was something else. As far as being dominant around the basket, I compare him to Wilt Chamberlain, and you know about Wilt and what he did in the league.
Definitely. Now, what was it like working for Ben Kerner, the Hawks owner, who took the franchise from Milwaukee, brought it to St. Louis, which had never known the NBA?
Well, we could talk for a long, long time about coaching for Ben Kerner. A one-of-a-kind, one of the original owners in the league, of course. And a lot of these guys operated the franchise out of their vest pocket. And I mean that sincerely. It was unbelievable when the league started, and I was lucky to be involved in that opportunity. And Ben was very cognizant of what was going on the team. In fact, after you coached a game or so, you had to go in and talk to Ben about your substitutions and everything that you did, because he was critical of coaches especially, and it wasn't too long before generally he decided he wanted another coach.
Okay. What was it like to be in the first NBA All-Star game? Nowadays it's a big extravaganza. 1951, what was it like?
Well, it was, I think most of the players in the league at that time really appreciated the opportunity of being able to make a living in basketball. That was almost unheard of, and to have an all-star game during the first years, we all felt was something special. And it wasn't, you didn't get paid very much for it. I remember the check for the first all-star game in Boston being $25.
Who scored the first point? There's been a lot of debate. We had on Dolph Shays, and he said he'd scored the first point, but then I heard on an all-star cast someone else's name come up. There's some debate there. Maybe it was Jack Twyman said he scored the first point. In the NBA all-star game, they said Dolph Shays this year.
Well, it would be one of those guys, that talked about scoring the points because they did a lot of shooting during their time in the league. So it doesn't, I understand what they're talking about because they had sticky fingers.
We had Jack Twyman on a couple weeks ago, and when we talked to him before the show, he goes, "What are we going to talk about? I'm worried about talking for about 10 minutes." He stayed on with us for 40 minutes, and he was absolutely incredible. We had him on, and then Frank Ramsey came on, and he kept going. And he sent me a note the other day thanking us for coming on, thanking me for having me on the show, and he really enjoyed and wishes he could listen to our show because he enjoyed talking about the old days. And he said, you guys actually liked being around players from other teams. You actually partied together.
Well, yeah, I think that there was that kind of effort by everyone in the league. As I said, we appreciated the opportunities, and we talked to each other about our cities that we were playing in and that kind of thing. In fact, you know, basketball didn't move west of the Mississippi for quite a while, so yeah, we were in a much cozier area, and I think that lends itself to that happening.
So after all these years, are you still a Knicks fan?
Oh, yeah, you bet. In fact, I went back. I was honored for being the player of the 50s for the Knicks, and I really appreciated that, and that organization has been so great to me. And I just can't say enough about what the opportunity was for me and how I enjoyed playing for them.
We're going to have Bailey Howell coming on after the break. Do you have any stories about Bailey?
Oh, yeah, another guy that had sticky fingers, but also a guy that got the ball back. Even if he shot it, he went to get it back. Bailey was one of the better rebounders that has never given credit for his efforts. He was a great player. I see him all the time at the Hall of Fame in Springfield, and he also likes golf. So he and I have quite a few things to talk about.
Who's the better golfer, you or he?
I'd have to say I probably am because I had a lot more experience in the game. But we usually play a scramble at the Hall of Fame, and I get to see an awful lot of other people, including Julius Erving. He loves the game. And I think Michael Jordan is, I think in the last few years, I haven't gone in, 1 or 2 years, but Michael Jordan is playing in the tournament, too. He loves golf.
Did you ever golf with Michael?
No, I haven't golfed with him, but I can afford to play for $1,000 a hole.
Thank you very much, Harry. It was a great talking to you. You're a class act, and congratulations on the Hall of Fame.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.